going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're watching this, go and smash that subscribe button, that like button. Share it with all your friends. You guys know what to do. It's not your first time here. If you guys watching it again, obviously. We're coming to you today on Sunday due to the evacuations going on in California. We're a little bit affected by it, but we're back. So let's get into this. Today we'll be covering some continue on with the fantasy football aspect type of things. And we'll be covering the running back positions, which is very, very highly coveted on our end due to the PPR league that we are in. So, Duran, you got anything for us before we get this thing started?
No, I'm ready to go. Ready to dive into it.
All right. So, for your number one, is it safe to say that you have Christian McCaffrey right there?
Yeah, my top three people are probably four. Everyone probably has the same. It's some order of McCaffrey, Barkley, Zeke, and Kamara. So I have those four guys just rounding out the top four. And, I'm kind of looking at Kamara at this position. I like him a little bit more than I'd like these other guys, and mainly because I see right here that three out of these four guys all have new coaches on their team. So they'll be running new offenses. It's going to kind of be hard to predict exactly where they are. Like we all know how Kamara is and how he just slides right in doing the same exact thing that he did last year. So, I'm liking Alvin Kamara out of this top four just for consistency and to end up pretty much where he has the last couple years. What about you?
What round would you draft Kamara in? If you
all those guys, first round, first four picks, taking one of those guys. Yep. The only thing is Latavius Murray will definitely get those short yardage carries, maybe even some goal line stuff. But like McCaffrey and Barkley, they literally have no one to challenge them for much of anything. Dion Lewis, and who knows who's going to get the touches behind McCaffrey. But, those guys pretty much are going to be the bell cow, get the ball damn near every time, 90% of the time. I have Zeke down for about 80% of the carries. We know Tony Pollard will come in there and get a couple touches. He was doing it like every third drive last year and things like that. But Kamara I have down at 70%. Latavius Murray will probably come in and get 30% of the touches. But Kamara, I think he's locked and loaded to be a top player this year.
Where do you have Dalvin Cook?
Dalvin Cook's next. So my next group, I don't really have a top 10. I think I have a top 9, a top 8. So my next group would be Dalvin Cook, Derrick Henry, Josh Jacobs, and Aaron Jones. So that's the next set of guys that I think are going to be bell cows for their team. I have Aaron Jones towards the end of that just because, they have A.J. Dillon there now, and he's just like that hard downhill runner that I think they kind of want to switch to. But the other three guys, I'm all in on.
I have Dalvin Cook a little bit lower only because of the injuries past. He hasn't really played all 16 games in his career.
Yep.
Even his rookie year, he went down. He was shining. Everything was great. I kind of kept my tabs on him. Thought he had a solid line, so I took a pass on him in later rounds in the rookie year. Then he went down and kind of went shit from there. So I have him down because of that. I have Josh Jacobs coming in at number 5 there. I like their line. They have a solid run-game line, and he's since his days at Alabama, he's always been an option in the backfield. So that gets some points right then and there.
Yeah, I usually try to never predict or try to go with injuries. I like to play the high risk, high reward, and kind of go with a guy like that. So that's why I have Dalvin Cook ahead of him, and Josh Jacobs is number 7 for me. He's definitely that workhorse type of running back there for the Raiders on a team that likes to run the ball, but he doesn't get those targets. He's not a pass catcher. I know they still have Rashard there that comes in on third down and kind of steals a couple catches and things like that for him. So that's the only reason I have him a little lower. If you remember last year, Dalvin Cook was getting a lot of screens and touches out of the backfield no matter what. I have Dalvin Cook was catching 4 passes a game. Josh Jacobs was at 1.3. So just those few extra points a game is what tilted the scale for me.
All right. Any rookies up there? Like, so you
No,
went over your top 10, and I didn't see any rookies there. Do you have any rookies? If you say
no, no
top five,
rookies. No rookies. I've only mentioned my top 8. But coming into that next group, I think that's where Clyde Edwards-Helaire will come in for me. I don't really want him as my number 1 running back. I would take him as my number 2 in a second. So that next group there, what is it, 9 to 13? I have Chubb, Kenyon Drake, Joe Mixon, Miles Sanders, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. And all those guys I would love to have as my number 2 running back, but I know, unfortunately, you're probably going to have to take him as your number 1, especially if you're towards the end of that first round. So, yeah, those are 2 guys. Maybe even if you're towards the end of the first round, you double up on 2 of these running backs to kind of solidify your running back position. And, there's always a deep amount of wide receivers that you can get later on in the draft.
Yeah, I wanted to poke a hole in that one for you. So I have Clyde Edwards-Helaire at being my number 10 spot in my top 10 rankings.
Yep.
I have him slightly above Miles Sanders, and I have him above Miles Sanders. Usually, we're looking at the ADP here. Miles Sanders at 10, then it goes Kenyon Drake at 11. I actually have Clyde Edwards-Helaire at 10 because it's more of a prove deal. But in that offense, coming out of LSU, they compared him to Brian Westbrook. And when Brian Westbrook was with Andy Reid, he went off. And he didn't have a quarterback like Pat Mahomes. Pat Mahomes, when he's in trouble, he finds open man. And Clyde Edwards-Helaire has been shown at LSU to catch passes out of the backfield. So I actually pretty excited to see him in this offense. So I think that he's going to shine. I think that I would take him as my number 1 if, say Michael Thomas was there, and then I wanted to draft another highly coveted receiver, and I see the run started to go. I would, I'd take away from him as my number 1 running back. But I understand what you mean as far as like putting him at your number 2. I mean, if you have number 2, that's I think you're killing the game.
Yeah.
If you have someone like, Chris McCaffrey, then you have Clyde Edwards-Helaire. I think that backfield is just going to run up the score for you. So.
Exactly. So just ranking wise, last year we know Kansas City won the Super Bowl, and even while winning the Super Bowl, they didn't even have a top 30 running back. So I kind of think, why would they switch now? They average less than 100 yards a game in rushing, only 23 attempts per game, and some of those were to Pat Mahomes, and they're not one of the most efficient running teams in the league. They just don't need to be. But passing wise is where they're on another level. Of course, they have the best quarterback in the game. And I just don't see them really needed to lean on him. And he hasn't proven it yet for me. So those rookies always take a little shot in my rankings.
Yeah, most definitely. I'm just kind of looking up at Brian Westbrook and then his rushing yards, but I know it was a whole different line that he had back then.
Oh yeah, it's a whole different league.
One guy that came out of nowhere as soon as he switched teams last year. We were just talking about this 2 seconds ago before we started. Talk about people who made a big jump. And a guy that made a big jump for me over past years is Kenyon Drake for the Arizona Cardinals. He, as soon as he got traded over for I'm pretty sure it was a conditional round draft pick from Miami, he excelled in that offense. Either running it or, pass catching it. His debut was against 49ers, I think, on Halloween. And he just killed it. He looked super good. He looked really, really well. I have him up there pretty high. He's actually at my number 12 spot.
I'm higher than that on him. I have him at 10. Okay. Yeah, I have him at 10. Yeah. And what I liked is I broke down his stats just in the 7 games that he was in Arizona, and he played some pretty good teams. I know the Niners were in there in that chunk, and he played a lot of good run defensive teams. And in those 7 games, he was a top 10 running back 50% of the time. So I'll take that gamble. If you're going to give me top 10 weeks 50% of the time, I like that a lot. And most of the other times he's going to be top 20. So in that running back 2 range. They do have Chase Edmonds there. To me, he's more of a change of pace back. I watched some of his tape too, and he does a lot of outside zone type of things, nothing up the middle or, between the tackle work. So Kenyon Drake, I have him at number 10. He's probably the last running back that I'd take as my number one guy.
I'm going to take a swing here as far as I think who one of your biggest drops is. I'm going to say Todd Gurley.
Todd Gurley, compared to average draft position, nope, I'm right on there. I have him one spot higher. Todd Gurley's my number 15 running back. So, but that next set that I have that's going to round out the top 20 is going to be Leonard Fournette at 14, Todd Gurley 15, Austin Eckler 16, James Conner 17, Le'Veon Bell 18, Chris Carson 19, and David Johnson 20. So Todd Gurley, this team is a low rushing team. I know that, and he's on a new team. But this is a piece that I think that they're kind of missing from their offense. I love that they have one of the, top wide receiver quarterback duos like that team to help him out. So I think he has a lot of just help from his team to take the attention away from him and unstack the box. So his offensive line isn't that bad either. I have him as a top 20 line. So this is a guy that I think they could actually use. And I think, he's the missing piece of this offense. If he has any life left in him this year, then I think this is his chance to prove it.
Yeah, he definitely has a lot of weapons over there in Atlanta. They got, Jones, Ridley, and Hayden Hurst. Yeah, it's going to be a solid offense right there. I'm looking forward to seeing him kind of excel. I know last year he was pretty banged up. Didn't come into the season until very late. So I hope he, finds new life there. I hope he gets into it pretty well. Let's see here. One guy I want to see where you have him at. Where do you have Raheem Mostert?
Raheem Mostert's really low. I have him towards 30. You just never know what you're going to get with that backfield. I mean, he's on a high rushing team and he is pretty efficient, like points per touch wise. But this is a committee running back team, and he gets no targets out of the backfield, which he averaged less than one per game out of the backfield, a target. So yeah, I'll get to him later. He's at 28 for me.
28, okay. See here. I'm trying to look at
another guy that I think is going to lose a lot of targets this year. I know last year he averaged 5 catches per game, which is pretty surprising. That's Leonard Fournette. So Leonard Fournette I have down at 14. And, they added Chris Thompson this year. So Chris Thompson, I think, is going to steal a lot of those third downs. I don't feel like he's really on good terms with the team. I think he wants out of there eventually. But, I think Chris Thompson's going to go there, going to steal some catches out of the backfield and third down touches. I like Chris Thompson a lot too. So I think he's a capable player. And I just think things are starting to stack up against Leonard Fournette on this Jaguars team. I think he has a weak O-line. I'm not a Minshew fan. He's going to lose his third downs. They're a low rushing team overall. They don't average that many rushes per game. So that could have been because they were behind last year, but I just think that's too many variables for Leonard Fournette to be considered a number one this year.
What do you one guy that was solid at his time over there in LA with the Chargers and then switched over to the division rival in Denver Broncos, Melvin Gordon. I like to see where you actually have him, being that he has a good running mate in Phillip Lindsay.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon I have down at 22. So mainly because of that split, and he's on a new team. I think that's pretty – I'm one spot lower than average draft position on him. But, Melvin Gordon, I just think he's going to get his touches and stuff, but I don't think they're going to pull away from Lindsay that much. In the same city, For the Chargers, where do you have Austin Eckler at?
Austin Eckler, I actually have him about the same as average draft position at 12. I kind of have him in the 13, 14 type of range. It
Okay.
was kind of hard for me because I was kind of playing around with him and Nick Chubb, and James Conner, seeing where to put him. Yeah, I do like Eckler. I think that we were talking about this the other day. His touches per game is actually pretty high.
Yeah, I like Eckler too. I have him in that second tier. I think I'm a little lower on him than most. I have him at 16. I know he's a really efficient runner. His points per touch is one of the top in the league, and he gets targets out of the backfield. But this is another guy where I just think he doesn't have any help around him. His O line, I have him ranked 25 out of 32, which isn't too good, especially for a running back. Not a fan of his quarterback, Tyrod Taylor, or the rookie coming in. They're another low rush team, so that's not going to help him that much unless he plans on catching some more. I just don't think he's a workhorse type of back, and the two other guys, Jackson and Kelly, there aren't going to help him out too much. I think they'll steal a couple touches there too. So
I'm trying to look at guys that are starters right now that I'd like to ask you about, but I'm coming up with a lot of guys that get a lot of shared touches.
yeah, I think we're out of the bell cow stuff. I think I got one more guy that's going to be a bell cow, and that to me is Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell, I got him getting like 80% of the carries. He could split with P. Ryan a little bit, but I doubt it. They're paying him to be that number one bell cow type of dude, but he's coming in at 18 with me. And that's because just watching him last year was very frustrating. That O-line was trash. He couldn't get anything moving forward. His quarterback's not the best. And the one thing that really stood out to me is he had no top 5 finishes in a week last year. So he just didn't have that ceiling like the normal Le'Veon Bell at Pittsburgh had. So he dropped down to 18 to me. I just don't want to take him and kind of rely on him every week to produce for me and get frustrated.
Yeah, I actually got him in my top 20 as well. I think the 18, 19 range. He does have that rookie in Kai Becton, but I need to see it at the pro level because you can go to the college level all day in the ACC, but as soon as you get to the pros, it's a whole different ballgame. So I have to see that tackle play a little bit so I can see if he opens up some holes for left bell. We'll see. I know they brought in Frank Gore. Yeah, you just wonder. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to take away some carries from Le'Veon Bell or if he's actually going to help Lev Bell as far as, coach him up, keep level-headed. I mean, we saw him I don't know if you saw that clip that he just released. Maybe we'll see. I mean, I know Adam Gase didn't really want him to begin with, so I wasn't too sure that's an ownership move. But it's hard with Lev Bell. I mean, we have to see which guy shows up. I know he was talking about losing weight to drop down even further, which is pretty crazy since he entered the league around 240, coming out of Michigan State, dropping. So we'll see.
Two guys that are in a little bit different situation this year that I had one of them on my team last year, and he did really well for me. And another guy that I'm just a fan of that I hope bounces back is Chris Carson and David Johnson. I have them rounding out at 19 and 20 for me. Okay. So as we know, Chris Carson, they're a very run-heavy team. They run it more than most teams in the NFL. But, of course, the two things that really hang over his head is that horrible offensive line that they have every year that I have ranked 28 out of 32. And they added Carlos Hyde. So those two things are definitely going to take a toll out of his production this year. But I still have him. I'd take him as our running back too, but he's one of those guys I could kind of see falling off this year.
Yeah, I have him a little bit lower. I actually have Leonard Fournette over him because they bring in I think a highly coveted running back like Carlos Hyde. man, if he would have stayed healthy and throughout his years, I think he actually could have shined, could have done a lot like he did in Ohio State. But he couldn't stay healthy. But I do like Carlos Hyde a lot,
Me
and
too.
Chris
I just think
Carson.
he fits that style of their
He
offense.
does. I don't know. I'm kind of hoping, maybe he can take a lot more carries out of Chris Carson, only because I'm a fan of Carlos Hyde. But other than that, I mean, Chris Carson, he's that lead guy. Seventh round draft pick out of Oklahoma State, and he's been that since. So,
Yep. What about David Johnson?
David Johnson.
I just hope. I know to me he's a really efficient runner. I like when he gets his hands on the ball, even last year. And now he's going over to Houston, and he did that big trade for DeAndre Hopkins, of course, coming over from Arizona. And something tells me I hope Bill O'Brien tries to prove people wrong and really uses David Johnson as a bell cow. I don't really see it, though, because of Duke Johnson there, and I think he's a pretty good player, too. So he'll definitely be there on at least third down. So this is another guy that's on a new team. I like his quarterback. His offensive line, I think, is pretty solid. I have him at number 17. And David Johnson's a guy I'll take a shot on later on in the draft, or later on in as a running back number 2.
Where do you have Kareem Hunt?
So Kareem Hunt, I think, is going to take a jump this year.
Okay.
Especially, we've heard a couple things coming out of camp just about Chubb getting a concussion and things like that. And I had Nick Chubb on my team last year. And I watched a lot of the Brown games. And whenever Kareem Hunt got in the game, I knew he was going to do something good to, steal those carries away. So I was pretty jealous seeing Kareem Hunt carry the ball. Another guy that's a point per touch type of dude. I have him at 26, by the way. So I have him. I'll take him as my running back number 3, just because I think I like his upside a lot. They have a decent offensive line. One thing that I didn't like is he doesn't get many first downs, and we're in a point per first down league. So I like that a lot, the point per first down. I think I like it more than point per reception, because you actually got to earn it. But anyways, I have him as a top 10 offensive line. I have Baker Mayfield ranked as the 15th quarterback. So, I think he's set up, especially if Nick Chubb goes down, he's going to instantly jump in to be a top 10 running back.
I got a couple of guys that were starters last year. I mean, they're still listed as the starters, but these teams, I should say, drafted highly coveted running backs. And I want to go over them and see where you actually have them. Because honestly, this is where I was stuck. I couldn't really, prime myself, because I spent a lot of times watching the running backs out of college, and I got really excited about them. Then it's the GM move, as far as like you don't let good players prevent you from drafting great players. So kind of want to go over them for a little bit. So first off, let me go ahead and go with Marlon Mack. Marlon Mack, obviously the running back for the Indy Colts. They drafted Jonathan Taylor. So who do you have higher? Do you have Taylor higher, or do you have Marlon Mack?
I definitely have Taylor higher. I have Taylor at 24, and I have Marlon Mack at 36. To me, I just never really thought Marlon Mack was that dude. Would have been. Oh.
Sorry, I was moving back my chair. That's my fault.
So I have Jonathan Taylor. I have him ranked at 24 and Marlon Mack at 36. To me, I never really bought into Marlon Mack. To me, I thought he was like a change of pace, a good change of pace type of guy. I didn't really think of him as between the tackles dude. Jonathan Taylor, I think, is that guy. So I think he's great between the tackles, especially behind this offensive line, and bringing in Phillip Rivers. I think he's going to have a great year.
Yeah, Jonathan Taylor, he does actually have a lot of tread on those tires.
True.
Being a running back over there from Wisconsin. So we'll definitely see how that goes. That's actually one rookie who I'm really excited to see All right, especially behind that line.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Let me bring up.
What about J.K. Dobbins and Mark Ingram? I have them in
See,
the same little conundrum that Taylor and Marlon Mack are in.
I think that one's a little bit harder, only because Marvin Ingram seems to be more of the. I don't know. He seems like to be a guy who can do it all,
Yeah.
and he's very consistent in his running game. He knows that offense. He seems to have, obviously, about the big trust. He has a very good relationship with Lamar Jackson and J.K. Dobbins. J.K. Dobbins, new kid on the block, so he's got to get in tune, groomed in that position. But as far as that goes, I still think they're gonna kind of lead with Ingram and
Yep.
then bring J.K. Dobbins along the way. Marvin Ingram seems to be everywhere he goes. Actually, he seems to be a good teacher, a good teammate. Over there when he was with New Orleans, he was a solid teammate, solid teacher. Uh, and then we'll see how it goes with J.K. Dobbins. But as far as that goes, I would like to see J.K. Dobbins take over because I was a big fan of him in college. But I was also a big fan of Mark Ingram.
Yep.
So with that one, that was a little bit. That one was super hard for me. Actually, that's actually the people who I wanted to ask about next. See where you actually have them.
Yeah, I have Mark Ingram at 21. He's of course on a great offense on a high rushing team. They rush it more than any team in the NFL. And yeah, they do have those backups behind him: Gus Edwards, Dobbins, and I even like Justice Hill for like a third down change of pace back. So I expect them to rotate those guys through in and out. I actually got Mark Ingram down for only about 40% of the carries. I think there's going to be a little bit change of role for him there. But another thing is he doesn't get many targets, only 1.5 per game. So I just don't see him as a workhorse this year. Even last year, he was number 24th in touches per game. So, yeah, I have Mark Ingram ahead of Dobbins, but Dobbins isn't too far behind because, you know, he's a good player. I think he's the future. This is probably the last year there for Mark Ingram, and I think the tide will change here pretty soon. One guy that's on here that's just sticking out in my last top 25 is David Montgomery. Where do you have him at?
David Montgomery, yeah, I'm a big fan of him. I just can't trust that line.
Okay.
He's not the type of guy who really is shifty and can get out of there. He's more built like a power guy. That clip still comes up every time I look up. If I type in David Montgomery, that clip pops up. I don't know if you've ever seen this where he was playing against. It was back when he was at Iowa State. It says it has vision of Le'Veon Bell and the cuts of like Alvin Kamara. I still have yet to see that in the NFL. Still a big fan of him, but needs to prove it a little bit more this year. Hopefully, he doesn't hit that sophomore slump.
Yeah, I think
he's coming into his own.
Yeah, I have him.
I do have him in my second tier group type of guys though.
Yeah, I have him right at my 25th running back. So to end out after David Johnson, it's Mark Ingram, Melvin Gordon, Devin Singletary, Jonathan Taylor, and then David Montgomery. So to me, Montgomery, he's just he's like a volume running back to me. He just needs a lot of carries to produce. When I watch him, I think he looks kind of slow, and I don't really. He's not a game changer to me. So he is going to get a lot of those touches. I have him around 70-80% of the touches in that backfield. So he is a guy that I'll take as my second running back, third running back, maybe flex type of dude. But I don't really want him any higher than that. A couple of things, like you said, weak offensive line, weak quarterback play. He doesn't really do the third downs. We know Tyreek Cohen's there to take those touches away from him. They're just a low rushing offense. That also might have been because they were behind last year so much. So all those things lined up, I could see David Montgomery kind of taking a hit this year. But yeah, that wraps up, I think, like the top 25 that we have here. So those are going to be your RB1s and RB2s, maybe even get into a little bit of flex. So let's take a little break here, and we'll come back and hit some late round guys with you, some sleepers, and some guys to target at the end of the draft that could be a surprise and win your league.